أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. In the name of Allah, the most compassionate, the most merciful. Verily, praise is due to Allah. We praise Him. We seek His aid and we ask for His forgiveness. We seek refuge in Allah from the evils of our own selves and from the evils of our own actions. And whomsoever Allah guides, none can misguide. And whomsoever Allah leaves astray, none can guide back to the correct path. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وسلم. We testify there is no deity worthy of our worship except for Allah, who is alone with no partner, never has, never will be another. And we bear witness that Muhammad, peace and blessing be upon him, is the last and the final prophet of Allah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Thank you again, my brothers, my sisters, friends, and family. Thank you all for joining in on our Monday halaqah. Today, I'm happy to announce that we are going to be beginning on a new topic and basis of discussion for our Monday halaqah. And this new discussion topic will be, oddly enough, or actually well enough, picking up directly where we had left off with our last book and Monday halaqah. As we had mentioned from our concluding remarks from the book of the Halal and the Haram by Sheikh Yusuf al-Qaradawi, with that book, the Halal and the Haram, one topic that the author had addressed regarding matters of the heart and the movements of the soul was the diseases of the heart. So in these diseases of the heart are things that corrupts the believer, soils their actions, their intentions, and their eventual reward with their creator. And this affects both men and women the same. And with that piece that we had reviewed, the Halal and the Haram, we've reviewed that for about 2 years, and it quickly did become into a word for word reading in many cases. And a lot of this came down to because the sense of review and the means of reflection were based upon evidences where the Quran and the Sunnah, according to the author, needed to be applied. And in order to present those basis and the evidences for what the author was trying to explain, allowed us to apply those fundamentals as Sheikh Qaradawi found for his book. Now, however, we turn to this topic that we will be organizing a little differently. So first and foremost, we're not going to have such a immediate approach, and we'll be participating a little less on the fundamentals or rulings, but delving into matters of the heart and the orientation of our intentions. For the topics we are going to be eventually delving into is not necessary it's fundamental knowledge, but it's not esoteric knowledge that nobody can understand except for those who are very deep or inclined inside of the deen. These are things that are universal and are applicable and recognizable by all human beings of any sort of religion or walk of life. And so I encourage that if anyone is here, whether they are Muslim or not, that even if they may have a bias against or for the religion of Islam, that they still allow to delve into this aspect of our reflections that which we're trying to put ourselves into, which is removing ourselves diseases, the rust, the veil, or the hardness of the heart. And the work that we're going to be getting into, which I have a copy of it as a PDF, which was where I'm reviewing it, comes from the scholar Muhammad Maulud, whose full name is Muhammad Maulud bin Ahmed Fal al-Kayubi Musawi Imam al-Maulud, who was born in the country of Mauritania around 1844 CE and passed away around 1905 CE. And the scholar who we know of today, Hamza Yusuf, who is a relatively popular and well-known scholar in the Americas, is the one who is doing a commentary of this piece regarding this book. And so the author, as I'm going to be referring to as Sheikh Hamza Yusuf, opens up with the part of the Quran in regards for the introduction for this piece, as mentioned in Ash-Shurara, or the poets, Surah 26, ayat 88 through 89, referring to the day of resurrection. It is a day in which neither wealth nor children will help except for him who comes to Allah with a sound heart. And the author goes into speaking about the heart and what a miraculous thing that it is in its design, because we're talking about something that in the course of a day beats 10,000 times, and every single minute 2 gallons of blood winds up surging through the heart, and thus meaning that over 200 gallons of blood are being pumped through the hour. The cardiovascular system inside of the heart is 60,000 miles long, and the human heart is something that is first developed before the brain, and begins to pump before the brain begins to function. And even as a reference to its design and function, is that during the time of heart transplants, the connection with the brain is cut off from the uh, uh, from its communication system, and the heart will still continue to beat. So it is essentially running on its own and its own sort of design and function. And even though we understand that the heart is a means of tissue, it is a design, oriented by our creator, it's not just, or we can look at it as just an organ, but we know in many cases that it is not just an organ. When we reference the heart, we reference it as the means or the pit of our ego, where our intentions or our niyyah comes from. Anxiety stems from, not from the brain, but actually from the heart. And the organ is designed to be in a state of stillness until it is then removed from remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. For an example, when we go through a hardship and we act upon the anxiety of which this causes, or that's which it had caused, the heart then becomes agitated. And the heart as well can recognize wrong actions, even if the mind, the logic, and the brain ultimately do not agree with that. Your heart can still deviate from what your mind and your or what your soul may even decide what is correct or incorrect. And in the same case too, we use the heart as means of metaphors when we are in those states of anxiety. For an example, we wear our hearts on our sleeves. We are hard-hearted, or we may know somebody who is hard-hearted. When you deal with loss or with separation from a loved one or a family member, we are broken-hearted, or we are shooken to our core. Or when we meet somebody who is fascinating, sometimes our heart skips a beat. Even the Tin Man of the Wizard of Oz desired a heart, because he's just presuming that he could be kind of human if he only had a heart. And interestingly enough, too, the Hebrewic and the Arabic languages, which are languages normally associated with practices and the scriptures of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, include the heart being positioned, since it's positioned slightly to the left on the human body, and it is being written from the right to the left. It is a way of us seeing that it is a way of orienting ourselves in that sort of writing to heartfelt sort of language. And we can also see in the same case, when we are circling the Kaaba, for an example, we do so counterclockwise with the Kaaba to our left, so it is closer to our hearts. Alhamdulillah. So it is a way in our own practice, the same way how even the tribes of Israel used to wear the phylacteries and used to wrap it 7 times around, or when they used to circle around their temple, the same exact sort of case. It's a way of us inclining with our natural bodies towards the divinity through the heart. And the author goes into describe that the essence of this Islamic teaching, as mentioned by the word of Allah through the Quran, defines three types of people in regards of their connection of their hearts with their creators. First and foremost is the one whose hearts are alive. There is a light in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grants them and guides them with. The one who has a dead heart is the one who is a disbeliever, ultimately without will or without ultimate goals to outreach something beyond just the physical realm and the physical body, not aiming for the afterlife, but only aiming for the here, is as if somebody is dead. And the author also goes on to mention that this stems a lot from an understanding that to disbelieve is actually the starving of the heart, spiritually speaking. It's removing the creator from the routine of the heart and the remembrance inside of the heart of the creator, thus cutting off a creator from the creation, and which the heart knows and understands and recognizes, and therefore becomes deficient in this anxiety, in this separation. And then lastly, the one that is described to be as diseased in the heart, even though it's still functioning, but it's not functioning as well as it could be, are the hypocrites. They become unworried in their ultimate goal. Their concerns become in either one place or the other, and these actions eventually lead to the spiritual death of the heart and increasingly powerful foulness in the limbs. And while writing, of course, in the direction of the heart, or what we're going to be getting into, is going to be a symbolic and deep thing. It does not guarantee that we may be cut off ourselves, or that we may become damaged or soiled or rotten on our journey. And as a matter of fact, the heart becomes sicker the more it begins to delve into a sort of heedlessness, and ultimately away from our inclination, our natural disposition, also known as the fitra, which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has instilled inside of all of us. So ultimately, as we will be going into for the upcoming weeks, the way how this book is more or less organized is that it will be breaking down piece by piece, bit by bit, of this piece that Imam Maulad has written in his time, and then the commentator will be giving his analysis of that, or then we will be reflecting upon each and every piece and going into a different topic for each week going ahead, inshallah. So we will have a lot of facets to uncover, a lot of topics to delve into, and a lot of personal reflections as to how we can look at a situation, apply it to our own, and hopefully rid ourselves of this sickness the same way how a doctor would prescribe us medicine. And may Allah make it easy for us. And without getting too much into the topic for today, this is just an introduction for that before we start delving into the actual book itself. There are online resources where you can either get a audio book of this read by Sheikh Hamza Yusuf, or an online PDF that is free. If anybody is in need of that, please let me know, inshallah. But we will go ahead and close for now. Allahumma subhanaka wa bihamdi, ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilaik. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.